Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, September 8th, 2017. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy to be joined by Jonah Booker. It is the day before Ohio State's showdown against Oklahoma tomorrow night. Book, let's start off with, I found this very interesting post that you started on Bucknuts yesterday, listening to the Carpenter and Rothman show on 97.1 The Fan in Columbus. Bobby Carpenter mentioned a certain nugget about J.T. Barrett's passing. Tell the listeners all about that.
Yeah, so listening to the Carpenter or Rothman show yesterday, and they were previewing the game and just talking about the overall team, and Bobby Carpenter dropped a little nugget and was saying that from his intel that he's been gathering, there's still a bit of concern with J.T. Barrett's passing because he still has that flawed hitch in his mechanics. And he's not getting the ball out on time as opposed to just zipping it as soon as the wide receivers get out of their break. And it's not because of the poor mechanics as far as footwork that you saw last year, but it's more along the lines of JT not necessarily trusting the wide receivers to be in their certain spot. And a lot of that has to be with the timing and the rapport due to the six-man rotation, even sometimes seven, that you're seeing with this wide receiver core, as opposed to having a set three guys that you're consistently having in the game. And you know where those guys are going to be at. You know the time is going to be there. So we found that pretty interesting, and it's something to definitely keep an eye on.
Is something like that fixable? I mean, I know it is fixable. Like, technically, it's possible to fix that. I mean, like, realistically, as a fifth-year senior, new coaches, I mean, we've got best case scenario, like 16 weeks left in his season, left in his college career. Is that fixable?
That's a great question. After looking at that Indiana game, it looks like they fixed his mechanics when it comes to his footwork. So that was something that a lot of people was questioning, is that fixable? And it looks like they have done that. And when it comes to his hitch, I think it's more mental, it's more upstairs. It's going to be up to J.T. Barrett to not go all Alex Smith on this offense and just try to protect the football as much. Take some risks, let that ball rip. And I know teams are going to play Ohio State a certain way. Indiana's coach had led on to it that they didn't believe Barrett was accurate, so they were going to drop guys in the coverage and make him make the proper reads and get the ball out on time. The first half against Indiana, he struggled against that. Now, I think this whole hitch deal and the timing of the wide receivers and not trusting those guys, that is a mental aspect. It's a little disappointing because you would have thought that during the summer, those guys would have been putting in that extra work as a group to work on the chemistry. I know there were reports out that Johnny Dixon and JT put in a lot of time together, but it sounds like with the rotation, Barrett's not trusting those guys. But at the end of the day, we need Barrett to not play the Alex Smith role and make plays, get those guys the football. There are going to be times where you throw an interception. Okay, I'd rather for him to throw an INT as opposed to being a guy who's afraid of turning the football over if you're going to make a big play. So that's kind of the risk reward that you have. And I think we have a guy in JT who has the potential, but he has to trust his eyes. He has to trust what he sees as far as the wide receivers, and he has to get that football out in time.
Buckeyes are 7.5-point favorites tomorrow night against the visiting Sooners. As you analyze this game, J-Book, what is maybe your biggest concern or just your concerns in general for the Buckeyes?
Yeah, obviously you want the offense to start fast. I'm very confident they're going to be able to run the football, but it's going to be the passing attack that somewhat concerns me. You can't have a situation where you're putting the defense in bad down and distance because you're going 3 and out and not converting. We saw glimpses of that passing attack from last year. So that's something that I'm definitely concerned about. Oklahoma's going to come in here with better athletes than Indiana. We want to see J.T. Barrett be able to back those safeties off the line of scrimmage. They saw what J.K. Dobbins and J.T. can do as a 1-2 punch. Now you add Mike Weber into the mix. I have a strong feeling that they're going to put 7, 8 in the box, and they're going to make J.T. Barrett prove that he can actually beat them. And they're going to prove that they're going to make the wide receivers prove that they can get off press coverage. So that's something that I'm going to be looking for, as well as the defensive backs. They have to play better. You're going against a Baker Mayfield who is dynamic. He's going to make plays, but we're going to need better coverage, especially from Denzel Ward and Sheffield.
Now, we all know, my friend, that Mike Weber and J.K. Dobbins are going to play in this football game. Antonio Williams is going to play. Demario McCall is probably going to play. I mean, he at least plays on special teams. I think he's going to see some plays on offense as well. The interesting thing, though, we all know Mike Weber and J.K. Dobbins is going to be a kind of a timeshare at running back to a certain degree, but I do find it extremely interesting that yesterday Urban Meyer said that J.K. Dobbins is the starter, and that's just for right now, maybe. Maybe it's just Mike Weber coming off the hamstring. Maybe he'll get that starting job back. Maybe J.K. Dobbins will be the starter from this point forward, and Mike Weber will kind of be that complimentary back. I know they're both going to play, but what do you make of that? What do you make of it would have been easy for him to just say nothing and say, we don't know who the starter is going to be. What do you make of him coming out and saying that J.K. Dobbins is the starting tailback on this team?
Well, Meyer, when asked about J.K. Dobbins on his show, he also dropped the nugget that he believes J.K. is special, just describing him. So you don't bench special players. What J.K. did was just mind-blowing. I was really hoping for the guy to get 200, and I think he could have if he'd have got a couple more carries. And as Beanie Wells said post-game on last Sunday, you got to play J.K. You got to ride the hot hand. This is a guy who's showing he could be your horse. And I like the idea of having J.K. get the start because the guy, he proved that, he can handle that workload. And the notion that you can lose your position, you can't lose your position because of injury is totally false in football. If a guy is clearly playing at a high level, that guy is going to get his touches and he deserves his touches. But what I want to see is a nasty 1-2 punch rotating in and out with Weber and Dobbins. Now, the key here, Dave, though, is if Dobbins gets hot, how long do they stay to him before they bring in Weber? Because you don't want your starting pitcher in there just lighting it up. Then all of a sudden you bring in your reliever and things aren't clicking as smoothly. So you want to have a seamless transition whenever Weber gets his carries and quiet is kept. I wouldn't mind seeing Antonio Williams get a few carries because I like what I saw from him. I was really surprised the way he ran. He was coming downhill violent and running with some authority. So I wouldn't mind seeing him getting a couple of touches. But the key is just having a smooth transition as far as the rotation amongst all of those guys.
Very well said. Before I let you go, let's get down to business. As I said, Buckeyes favored by 7.5 in this game. What is your prediction? For those that didn't see our stat predictions and Alex's roundtable, give me a final score. Who's going to win this game, Jay Book?
Yeah, I have Ohio State covering the spread, 34-24. I think you're going to see a defensive touchdown this game from the Buckeyes. So I like Ohio State covering that spread at home, playing to a high level. If they can keep this rolling right now, this is the first major test. You're looking at a potential top 1, top 3 matchup heading into that Penn State game.
I like it. Covered and smothered, just like those hash browns at Waffle House. I'm the same way. I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I don't think it's going to be even the same margin as it was in Norman, Oklahoma last year. And I think this year's Ohio State's team is better than last year's. And this year's game is at home, but still, I think this is going to be a little bit closer game. I have a similar score as you do. I like the Buckeyes to win 31-17, so I have the Buckeyes covering and smothering as well. Great stuff as always out of Jonah Booker. Thank you very much, Jay Book. You can catch his column every week on Bucknuts that is outside Columbus, and you can catch him on Twitter at JBook37. Again, that's at JBook37. Thank you very much, JBook, and thanks to all the listeners out there for tuning into the show. It's going to be a fun weekend. Hope you have a great day and a fantastic weekend. Let's hear that Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land.